Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today, and I wanted to recently touch on some videos regarding controlling. It's something I haven't covered in a little while, and there's been some kind of sus information out there in the community and other videos and forum posts, so I kind of wanted to do a refresher. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at debuffs. So specifically the defense debuff. Now, since over time we have a lot of different aspects in this game that will stack the defense debuff, and I'm going to kind of touch on all those here. So first we have obviously the Amulet of Ra. Depending on your rank, it could be rank 80, 120, 160, or 200. You're going to have different various increases in the defense debuff. So a typical defense debuff, if I'm not using Ra or anything like that, just pop a stasis field. It's going to be 10% for 12 seconds. And that you see that little shield icon above the head. But if I use Amulet of Ra, the controller debuff, it's going to increase the potency of that debuff. So at rank 200, it's going to be 15% over that 10%. But nothing else changes, it's just the actual potency. You're not going to see that, but if, for example, if you're in a duel, then you'll be able to see it in your current effects tab, the percentages. And I'll kind of break down, obviously I have an Excel spreadsheet coming, you know me. So I'm going to have that breakdown in terms of all that, but I want to kind of just show you in game first. So another aspect, now that we have the Valentine seasonal event, is the Heartbreak Trinket. So the Heartbreak Trinket, you can see in the text, used to summon Heartbreak, a contemptuous heart that will aid you in combat for a short period of time. Heartbreak will charge, stun, debuff, and damage enemies. Now, what it looks like here, if I summon it, this is outside of the tier system, so you wouldn't want to use this as a DPS pet. This is specifically just for controllers, or if you want to apply debuff as another role. So Heartbreak is going to charge the target and kind of explode, and you'll see the defense debuff, and technically it applies it attack damage debuff as well. And that lasts for 9 seconds. So there's different variations in terms of durations. Next one, we have the allies. So looking at Death Metal Batman, if we look specifically at Death Metal Solo, which is the combat ability. So shreds or rift the damages nearby enemies and lays down a core to 3 debuffs. You get 25% healing, defense, and attack. And what that looks like here, if we summon him. It's a bit delayed, so he'll slam his guitar down. Now you can see the 3 debuffs applied on the target. And those are going to last for 10 seconds. So 2 seconds less than the normal debuff. The other ally here that continually kind of flies under the radar for a lot of controllers is Batman Who Laughs Toxic Encore. So hitting an enemy when using a finisher on an enemy below a certain percentage of health, prepare a bomb that activates on the next finisher. So it's easier in combat. But we'll bring the sparring target down just so I can show you. So if I use a first finish ability, you see there, now proc the card. I've got the card proc. So the next debuff that I use when I use a finisher is going to apply a red toxic field, which will also be a 7% debuff. So if I use the finisher again, I waited too long. So we'll see it again. I use the finisher again, there's the toxic field. And that's an AoE effect. And that's for 7% for 10 seconds. So with all these debuffs that I've just shown you, they all stack. Which means that if I use like the Death Metal Solo, Heartbreak, regular Stasis Field, Toxic Encore, all these debuffs are going to stack with each other, increasing the damage that you're going to give to the entire group, damage potential. So let's jump to the spreadsheet and actually show you what those numbers actually look like. And the reason why I'm glad it's using Fear Gas does not change this exact same amount. It's based, the damage in Fear Gas is based solely on your might. So I'm at 177,606 for these tests. I don't have Skillian Might or any like max damage mods, anything like that. So I could use Fear Gas continually, and it's always going to be the exact same figures, the exact same crit total, the exact same crit amount, non-crit amount. So that's why it's super easy to test in terms of damage differences with Fear Gas in terms of debuffs, because you know the damage shift is not from might, it's from the actual debuff being applied. So let's jump into those figures. Okay, so looking at the actual percentage breakdown now, so we've got the baseline Fear Gas, which was a non at 177,606 might, was a base non-crit of 3125 and a crit of 7377. And if I use Fear Gas with the regular defense debuff, this is just without artifacts, just a regular defense, 10% for 12 seconds, I get 11.1% increase in damage. If I'm using Amulet of Ra at 80, which is a 12%, it's 13.7 damage percent increase. At 120, 14.9%, 160 is 16.3, rank 200 is 17.7% increase in damage. Now if I'm using Toxic Encore, just the Toxic Encore, that's going to be a 7.6% increase in damage. If I'm using the Death Metal Batman, the solo, it's 11.1%, which will be the same because it's 10% for 12 seconds. Heartbreak, 7.1, or 7.7. It's a 0.1 increase, even though they're both 7%. It's slightly different in terms of how it's applied. It's a rounding thing. Toxic Encore is technically 7.2%. Heartbreak is 7.4%. So that's why it's very minimal difference in the actual damage numbers. But you can see here in the combat log, Scornful Decision is 7% defense for 9 seconds. So now getting into the stacking combinations. So if I'm using the 200 Amulet and Toxic Encore, it's a 28.2% increase in damage. If I'm using the Death Metal Batman ally and the 200R Rao artifact, it's a 33.3%. If I'm using Death Metal Batman, the Amulet of Rao, and Heartbreak all together, it's a 47.4% increase in damage. And if I'm stacking everything, which is Death Metal Batman, 200 Rao, Heartbreak, and Toxic Encore, it's a 64.3% increase in damage. Now, obviously, this will be a shorter window because of the durations. You're only going to get 9 seconds from Heartbreak, 10 seconds from Toxic Encore and Death Metal Batman, and 12 seconds for the rest. So, obviously, timing and lining everything up. But the aspect of it that you have to be aware of is that each combination, no matter what you're using, it's still stacking. So even if you can't always use Toxic Encore with a finisher, or you don't have the Heartbreak trinket, now's your chance with the seasonal. But even if you don't have these all together or don't want to run them, even just running the Toxic Encore and Rao is still a 28.2% increase, and you can continually get that. Or having your ally on cooldown, combination with Emperor Aquaman, forgot that name for a sec. But if you, the cooldown reduction on your ally, then you also have that increase. So it's more importantly just to being aware that every defense debuff in the game does stack with each other, and it amounts for a tremendous amount of damage increase in that short window of time. But that's your job as a controller. So you always hear those questions where I don't want to run Amulet, or why should I run Amulet? I mean, you get to see the damages increases just yourself. I mean, that's a 6%. You go for 11% increase to a 17% increase just by wearing Amulet, and then having Amulet stack with everything else. So this is more just like kind of an FYI video. I am going to get into like an updated controller, like power controller, buff controller, all the art swap combinations. I'm going to cover that in a coming video. I just wanted to have this debuff video first because this is more like an FYI to the community, and having the numbers in front of you in terms of what the stacking debuffs actually will amount to in combat. So take care, guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video.